mass is just forcing mass and energy back down to the Earth. So it essentially presses down on the Earth and then, in effect, presses up on the rocket. So it's essentially kind of like, have you ever seen like a geyser or something in like the Looney Tunes where like someone is sitting on top of some water and they go shoo, and it's like Daffy Duck is up here on top of like a fountain of water? God, do you not have cartoons anymore? Okay, yeah, right? The Looney Tunes are awesome. I don't know, what do you watch now? That's So Raven? It's not even on anymore. Okay. Whatever. Anyway, the Looney Tunes are sweet, and basically that's what happens. It's just the force against the ground pushes the rocket up. Push down, push up. Physics is sweet. So basically that's how reaction mass works, and that's what a reaction engine does, which is pretty low tech actually, but there is some high tech stuff that use the same idea, altered a little bit. Then there's rocket engines. Like I said, they're mostly internal combustion engines, much the same as you would have on like a car. But like I said, combusted fuel with an oxidizer also creates a change in temperature, where the combustion will be very hot and then it will cool down quickly, which generates energy to power the rocket. Sight. They also provide the highest specific powers and highest specific thrust on any engine used for spacecraft propulsion, which means that even if we find something for orbit, in order to escape the Earth's gravitational pull, we're going to use something super high-tech. Now, there's also, and this is mostly theoretical at this point, but some people think that we can use electromagnetic propulsion. And basically, that uses an electrostatic or electromagnetic force to accelerate the reaction mass directly. So instead of combusting, just like an ion stream or something, atoms, science, will like be pushed against the ground to accelerate the spacecraft. They don't really do a whole lot of that. We don't have like ion thrusters necessarily yet. But theoretically, this could create ion thrusters, electrothermal thrusters, electromagnetic thrusters, mass drivers. And I'll explain all those in a minute, but they're cleaner energy with less byproducts, and while expensive, that sort of environmental impact is one of the significant advantages to an app that would say fund electromagnetic propulsion. Now, here's the crazy stuff. And none of this stuff exists yet, but I think this stuff is cool, and so we're going to talk about it because I get to lecture today and you don't. But I think you'll like this. Nuclear power. Now, nuclear power is something that exists now. A lot of you have probably heard at least once or twice about like nuclear energy. You can use that same nuclear energy, it turns out, for rocket propulsion. But there are some concerns with it. People don't want to do it because it's not, although it is green in nature, people are afraid that it's going to hurt like the environment, or people are afraid of accidents, which I guess is an understandable fear if you have something nuclear propelled like above the atmosphere that explodes. That sounds awful. But really, actually, it is very safe. I think there probably will be apps this year that fund nuclear propulsion because, like I said, it's clean. And it's just a little bit easier and better than oxidization engines. There's something called a space elevator, which is pretty much exactly how it sounds. Can't really give you a better description than that, although I do have a video in store for you that will explain it better than I can. But essentially, a space elevator is just a tensile sort of loop that is an elevator in space, and it places things into like orbit and then leaves them there. And it can be tethered to something like a satellite. It can be tethered to a variety of things. There's a launch loop, which is kind of the same idea, less expensive than a space elevator, and it's essentially kind of like a hollow tube that is tethered to the Earth that we can sort of shoot things up into, and the launch loop will kind of propel them around and around and around and around. And then theoretically, could take them back down so we can reuse them, which cuts down on space breeze, it's kind of awesome. But way far in the future, there's some, and this one's hilarious. This is just hilarious to me. Something called a space fountain. Apparently not funny to you, but essentially it is a very tall building, which is held up by a stream of masses fired from base. So I already told you about sort of the reaction, pushing up, pushing down. The way they intend to do this is to fire pellets at the bottom of the building to keep it sort of afloat. Which to me mentally just sounds hilarious. Like there's like pellet streams at the bottom of the building, and they're like, oh yeah, this is a way more efficient way to get to space. False. Turns out you still need to power whatever shoots the pellet at the thing. Yeah.
We watched the video on the space elevator.
Yeah, dude. I got you. Come on now. I don't promise videos and not deliver. There's also something called an orbital ring, which is basically the same as space loop or whatever, or the lobster loop. But it has spokes hanging down off bearings instead of like magnetic forces that push things around. There's a hypersonic skyhook, which is a variation on a space elevator, but not like a space elevator, which sort of stays in one place. The hypersonic skyhook kind of moves around, which is interesting. There is an electromagnetic catapult. Things just get more and more Looney Tunes, I'm telling you. An electromagnetic catapult is essentially like a gun, which could either be like a coil gun or a rail gun, which just shoots things into space. The one serious downside of this, though, is it's totally unsafe to ever shoot humans into space this way. They'll for sure die. So you can't do that. So this technology has a serious limitation. And then there's a space gun, like the one that the Navy tried to develop in Project HARP. This gun is not a coil gun like an electromagnetic gun, but it is a chemically powered gun. So it's kind of a variation on that theme. There's beam-powered propulsion, which essentially, in true Dr. Evil fashion, uses a laser beamed down to the Earth to create thrust, or ions, or any kind of light from a beam to propel a spacecraft. That's way far in the future. There's also just some pretty low-tech stuff, like a high-altitude platform, which is basically just like you put a platform up really high. And so you don't have to shoot things as high. So essentially all a high-altitude platform would do would be to cut down on the amount of stages you need in your rocket, which is actually not that cool. And then just an orbital airship, which is basically exactly as it sounds, just a big airship that orbits and can sort of like beam things up through like regional space elevators, which kind of sounds awesome. That's one of the things that they're trying to do for commercial space travel, for like really, really rich people like that dude from Instinct that like feel like they should go to space. That's the way they're going to do it. Land fast and safe. Alright. Here's the video kid. Here are your videos, sir. Yes. Goodness.
Oh, wow.
Oh, whiny.
How do I turn this up then?
The little knob down there.
Okay. I'll make sure it's nice and loud for you. What, the volume? Do it, Brett.
Yeah, Brett.
All right. Here, wait. Don't leave until it's right. All right.
He simply doesn't go around the planet Earth. It's just like Columbus exploring the New World for the first time, and then spending the rest of his life simply puttering around the Spanish coastline. What's the problem? There's a dirty little four-letter word, and that is cost. It costs about $10,000 to put a pound of anything into orbit. Imagine John Glenn made out of solid gold. That's what it costs to put John Glenn or you into orbit.
Oh, Brett. Sorry.
For you to take a weekend trip up to the space station, it would cost about $500 million for you to go to the moon. And for you to go to Mars, it would probably cost tens of billions of dollars.
One way to reduce the cost of reaching space would be to find a more efficient way to overcome Earth's gravity.
Remember the story of Jack and the Beanstalk? Jack was a little boy who climbed the beanstalk into heaven. Well, imagine a space elevator such that you hit the up button, and the elevator takes you into the heavens just like Jack and the Beanstalk.
Instead of building from the ground up, the space elevator would be built from the top down. A satellite in geosynchronous orbit would drop a 60,000-mile cable back to Earth, where it would be anchored to the surface.
Now we are within striking distance of being able to create fibers that can withstand the tension of traveling at enormous velocities in outer space as the space elevator rotates with the planet Earth. So it never falls, because it rotates at the same rate as the planet Earth.
The elevator's compartment would simply roll up the cable, shuttling travelers and supplies into orbit, where it would wait for a spacecraft. This system would entirely replace a conventional rocket launch.
And that might reduce the cost of space travel by a factor of 1,000. Think about that. Then you begin to realize that perhaps a trip to outer space may be no worse than an airplane ticket.
Michio Kaku is crazy. Does anyone watch his show? Yeah. Are you kidding me? It's like the best show. It's like... it's real loud.
What's it called?
I think it's sci-fi.
Physics of the Impossible.
Or Physics of the Impossible. It sounds like the Discovery Channel. He also has a book.
Alright, you want to do that?
Yeah, go. Oh, this that we're about to see. How many of you have ever seen like a science fiction with warp drive? I don't know. I never have seen any Star Wars movies or Star Trek movies. I don't know anything about it. You can hate me for that if you want. But theoretically, there is a possibility that we could do warp drive. For real. And I can't explain it, but this guy can.
For real?
For real.
But this is a two-dimensional curved universe, which is easier to carry around with you. Two bucks and all right. But what I want to show you is exactly mathematically the same as what would happen in principle in the universe in which we live in, a curved three-dimensional universe, and how you do warp drive. So what I've done here is it doesn't matter if you get this kind of impressionistic experiment, so don't worry if you get the details. I have the star system here. I have a bunch of stars here, and I have a star system here, and I have a beautiful artistic rendering of the USS Enterprise right here. And it's in our local neighborhood. I've drawn our local neighborhood just so you're used to the sun, the moon, and the Saturn here. And right by the sun, there's a Hellbound comet right here. And if you look very carefully, there's a little spacecraft behind the Hellbound comet. Anyway, so what I want to show you is how the Enterprise can move away from this star system and towards this star system without ever moving with respect to its local surroundings, which is really important for us. So watch this. Okay, that's good enough for me. Okay. Now, what I do is I squeeze this end of the balloon, cause that end of the balloon to expand over there, and carry the stars with it. Of course, as I said, the balloon moved in, but of course, the Enterprise is anchored to the balloon, so it's not moving at all with respect to its local surroundings. The space behind it is expanded, the space in front of it is contracted. And that is what is literally possible in principle, given the laws of general relativity. Now, the question is it possible in practice? The answer is we don't know. We don't know because in order to expand space behind the spacecraft, you have to fill out space with a very special kind of energy, something called negative energy. Now, negative energy sounds like something that was created by a physicist in a room without windows for too long. And that's true, actually, but it does exist. We know that negative energy configurations, due to the laws of quantum mechanics and special relativity, on very small scales, negative energy configurations can exist for very short times. And in fact, they're responsible for, we think, for the phenomenon of T-COM discovery that made it famous among physicists, the fact that black holes are radiating. So, for very short times, negative energy configurations can exist. But what is an open question? It's an open question at the forefront of modern physics is, can you create a negative energy configuration on a scale large enough and long enough so you can propel a spacecraft from one place to another? That is an open question, and people like me get paid to think about it. Now,
Pretty crazy.
Aren't physicists hilarious? Don't you want to hang out with this guy? So badly. All right. Another thing that is kind of interesting, at least in my